Now that they think about it, Ohno has no friends at this school. Ohno, we got to get you a reason to keep going here. You know guys, my studies are enough to want to keep going here. Ohno smiles to them. But you haven't even been in a class ever, since you enrolled, you dummy. Julie pokes Ohno's forehead in a teasing way. Oh right. Ohno finally admits that with this whole magic business going on, and her old school disappearing, she completely forgot to do her homework. Well, for her new university, that is. It's not like she could submit homework to a school that's gone now. Don't worry about it, Ohno-chan. The most you'll get are some makeup classes. Emily cheers her up. The university, Eternal Rising Sun University, is quite a nice building. About 1,000 students attend this institution for 5 days a week, and most of them carry great pride in their school. As they get closer, they see the usual commune of students walking to and from, being dropped off, and so on. They have their own little conversations, possibly about what they did, or their absolutely normal lives. Ohno has trouble with her locker, not really understanding these old, complex combination locks. Her old school just had a number pad system, where you type in your code. Help. I can't put my bag in here. This thing is me-proof. Wait, you don't know your own locker combination? Hold on, let me go get a tick. Emerald do fire pellets. Practically everyone hears, as Emily incinerates the lock with pellets. Somehow she manages to put them out before the sprinklers notice as well. Ohno took this as very nice, Julie as very disturbing that Emily would go this far to use magic in public, when it's not needed. But, well, Emily had an ulterior motive that day. She wanted to be the awesome girl for a day, having gotten a bizarre boat journey high and wanting to strike poses as much as possible. A very snarky smile was set on her, behind those closed lips of hers. Some of the students started cheering madly for the now somewhat coolest person in the entire school, and she proceeded to pose and do random quotes, for about 30 minutes straight. Just as she started, though, Julie takes Ohno to the classroom, practically devoid of Otaku, for now anyway, something very important about Emily. Every single time we watch anything she absolutely loves, she'll get so excited in her head that she doesn't care how embarrassing things might look for her, and start doing that. Oh my, I never, though Emily-sama would be so enthusiastic about what she loves. Ohno gets cut off by Julie. For an entire school day. After she comes back to her house, her anxiety will act up again and make herself hide in her blanket for an hour. So, is she going to be fine after that? Ohno very worryingly asks. Don't worry, she goes through this phase at least every year or so. She'll be back to normal for as long as we don't binge on bizarre boat journey too much. Julie giggles to herself a little, then calms herself down. I'm sure we all have little glitches in our programming sometimes. Things that don't make any sense. Why are you going so deep all of a sudden? Ohno wonders. Never mind. Forget I said that last hint. Julie decides to at least help Ohno with some of her homework. I mean, she did save her life. Twice, in fact. Why don't I help you with a bit of that math, babe? Huh? You'd help me with that? Ohno surprisingly looks at Julie. I never had a friend actually help me with school before. They spend the next 28 minutes doing interactive lessons, just for Ohno. The teacher comes in halfway, and is honestly pretty proud of one of her best students offering another classmate help. The class begins and, surprisingly, the first subject is math, and it directly follows what Ohno had been learning. Because of Julie's help, the teacher noticed Ohno wasn't doing all that good, and helped her learn this high-level math equation easier. Although Julie did have to translate some of what the teacher was saying to Ohno speak. One notable part of this class was when they heard Emily doing her posing, saying something about your next line of sight is quote. The teacher joked with the class on who let Emily watch Bizarre Boat Journey that much again, and most of everyone chuckled. Except the students who didn't get the joke. The class ends, Ohno surprisingly having caught up a fair bit, and they went on to geography, where Emily was in the same class as the two of them. Ohno had no idea what on earth an economy was or why different countries interconnected them to each other, and had very visible trouble following along with that concept. Although to the shock of everyone, she did very good with place names, rivers, countries, mountains, and so on. Emily Boat Journey quoted something about the economy to Ohno, who somehow understood exactly what she meant. After that class, she had some idea of it. But then Japanese came around, and she fell on her face regarding it. Unfortunately for her, the teacher wasn't very forgiving and gave her a 1-hour detention for 3 days. What sucked even more is that none of her friends were there to help. The girls got together during lunch break, and, well, decided to go sit on the school benches. Ohno had a platter of rice with meat in another tray, and Julie got a hamburger, but with ink as a condiment. Emily, however, didn't get a pizza today. She decided to go all out and bring a whole large bowl filled with chocolate spaghetti. Emily mentioned how much she loves it the moment she opened her box. Is that why her boobs are so big? Ohno whispers to Julie. Yes. She used to do this all the time, but I got her to stop eating it so much about 3 years ago. What are you silly girls talking about? Emily smiles at them, as she heard their whispering. Is it about my Susies again? Because, if so, I maintain them with this exquisite meal of pure deliciousness. As they're heading towards the bench, Emily suddenly breaks her overly confident and happy tone she had all day, and starts to look very serious. Emily, what on earth is going on? Ohno asks politely. Emily just looks at her, and then points to a girl. That daughter of a bitch is my sworn rival. Well, not to her. She thinks I'm a damn fly in the wind compared to her. Julie looks at where she's pointing and doesn't see what's so menacing about her. Yeah, that's just the student with the best marks in the school, alright. Straight 100% S in everything. But why would you have something against her? I dunno, she seems kinda cool and mysterious to me. Ohno says. Well, I'll put to you this way. When you're looking at her from afar, or from the lens of someone who doesn't understand the concepts of intelligence, she seems like a normal super genius who will end something major in life. But I've known her since elementary school, and she's known every fact and every lie of me from the very day we first spoke. There's no super genius who could do that without diving deep into information, and all she does is skim books over. So why on earth do you hate her so much? Julie asks Emily. You'll know if you try talking to her. Why are you just standing in the halls? The very girl Emily pointed to and seemed so far away suddenly appeared right in front of them. Oh sorry Haim-senpai, we were just talking about something cool from a TDSH. That's not the case, but today I don't really care about finding the truth. Move along. The love spell team nervously resumes walking to the bench, perfectly aware of how terrifying, and almost inhuman, time is. A while later, Ohno tells the two about her 1-hour detention for not understanding what some symbols meant. Yeah, Ohno, that teacher, well, has something going on in their life. They aren't mean, they're just fighting their own struggles. Julie says. I mean, me and Julie were planning on staying at school anyway to do something, so, well, at least you aren't walking home alone. Emily smiles, the sudden seriousness breaking her overexcitement phase early. I guess that's something to look forward to. Ohno smiles. The rest of the classes go by uneventfully. So, as Ohno was heading to detention, kinda expecting it at this moment, she found her way to the room, where, rather surprisingly, the teacher there was quite understanding and generous. He took his time to help Ohno, the only one in the room other than him, with Japanese. Of course Ohno couldn't be too loud, as there was another detention hall for meaner students. But, with Ohno safely inside and away from the outdoor area in the middle of eternal rising sun, Emily could finally start confirming her fears. Hey Emily, why'd you say I'd have to come with you to this? Julie asks, still having no clue why Emily is so dead set on doing this whack-ball forced interrogation. Well, if my suspicions are right, I might be in serious danger. Not to mention I have no idea what her ability, or magic, does, other than being a truth serum. I don't want you going off to do something to die, so, I guess I have to come, don't I? Julie says. And so you don't do anything that you'll regret. Well, thanks Julie. I hope it doesn't come to you having to step in. Emily lightly smiles, and Julie's serious expression calms down a little. Aren't you a little afraid of facing your rival, who could very well kill us like this, Emily? I am afraid. A lot, actually. But that fear is why I'm so confident. It's to keep you, and Ohno, safe from whoever she's working with. Normally I'd run, cry in my room, maybe even shut the door, but if I do any of those, you know what'd happen to Ohno, right? Julie pictures it in her head and staunchly agrees. Alright, so that's why. Let's go have a talk with Hein, shall we? They both quietly walk in the halls, not saying a single word. Emily then has a flashback from the time she was a first grader, playing with other children by throwing a ball around, and enjoyed it. But, however, she decided to go onto the play structure with them, only to see Hein examining graffiti, rather inappropriate ones at that. Emily and Hein never heard about each other, never seen each other, and most importantly, never had the same teachers. Hein begins to stand up, and immediately concludes that no one here could possibly have done that just by Emily asking what she's doing. She then walks away, none of the kids being able to comprehend what just happened. A few days later, they encounter Hein staring at a chart they put on the school walls. It seemed like she just got here too. Just from what their first response was, Hein concluded that a kid in the group had, indeed, done it. She grabs this kid and hauls him to the principal's office. However, when it came from sheer coincidence to horrifying for child Emily was that, one day, they had a two-class gym session. Emily had been as friendly as ever, talking to friends, and having a good time doing sports and exercise. After class, Emily gets changed in the women's locker room, with only two girls in with her. Hein comes next to her, after she finishes dressing, and says something rather blunt about Emily not kicking the soccer ball properly, something Emily had never even heard of, but as she says this, Hein interjects and says that she knew, because she witnessed soccer games with her parents. Emily is scared and wants to start crying, but she says that she's too young for this, which Hein interjects again that age is simply just a stage of the growth of the body. Had she been doing her exercise properly, she'd be on par with a lion. Emily starts crying a little, saying something about Hein being too mean. Hein explains that she knew all this just by looking at her documentation and doing investigative research. Of course, the teachers would never let her, but reading anything is no trouble for Hein. Hein had not a show of care of human emotion, only knowing how to be blunt, be right, and tell the truth. Emily profusely cries onto the floor, unable to hide her sorrow anymore, but Hein suddenly slaps her in the face, making Emily stop for a brief moment, before she starts to exit the changing room. You don't deserve your friends, if you are going to keep crying like that over facts. Come see me, when you finally broke that pathetic illusion of yours. Hein walks off, leaving a massively tearing up Emily, all to herself, filling the floor with her tears. Emily had been hurt beyond belief, not physically, but psychologically. And then, the one last kick to her childhood came from the person who happened to be still in the changing room, finding her tears to be repulsive and disgusting. After Emily couldn't respond, the girl started to berate Emily for crying this hard to Hein, one of the greatest people in the school. Then she left. Emily cried. And cried. And cried some more. Emily couldn't go to class like this, so she sat in the one room that never sees any use in her elementary school, and let her tears flow, in the dark. It's the only thing she could do. Then she went home, all alone. Overnight, Emily had gone from being a social bug who had so many friends she'd never be bored, to an empty broom closet that no one ever wants to use. Her dreams, shattered into millions of tiny little pieces, and then clobbered to make sure nothing was left.